Good morning everyone. In this video I'm going to analyze the live price action for EU and DXY to see what opportunities there may be today. You're going to see my strategy and my analysis, so if you're interested in those then please stick around. Okay, we're starting off here on the daily as we always do. Right, so what's the daily showing us? Previous day we closed out bullish, but if you look it was an inside bar day, right? So the previous day where we came up, swept that major buy side liquidity above old highs and closed bearish. All of our price action was within that range of the previous day, so we didn't go on to make new highs or anything. So as you can see today, we are starting out with a lot of bearish momentum. It looks like we're gunning for these lows. So just looking at these candles here, we're not closing higher. I did mention that yesterday, so we've closed out as more of a sweep, so that may indicate lower prices, right? So we seem to be heading for at least our previous daily low at the moment for sell side liquidity, but at the moment both are still intact. Previous daily high, previous daily low for buy side and sell side liquidity. We'll see if these candle closures are going to indicate further pullbacks. As I've mentioned, we have unmitigated imbalances in more discount areas, especially the most obvious being down here. So we'll see if price wants to head there in the future. Don't want to get too ahead of ourselves obviously, but at least we're going to be seeking out some sort of sell side liquidity after taking such a major buy side liquidity target point above this August high here. If we look at DXY, we can see that DXY was stuck within this range for quite some time. Yesterday was also an inside bar day. However, so far this morning, if I just go in the closer, we've taken that previous daily low sell side liquidity. So that is giving us some sort of bullish move at the moment, and we can see EU is very bearish and it looks like we may have just met that previous daily low. So we'll see that more on a lower time frame. So the structure here on DXY still looks fairly bearish, right, with this lower high sort of lower low here, but at the moment the candles are sticking around this area. We may pull back further for more of a premium liquidity POY up into this area maybe. So we'll see how that goes. So I think let's go down to the 4 hour. We'll see what this looks like on the lower time frames. Right, so here we are on the 4 hour. Just want to quickly point out the 4 hour DXY chart isn't always moving live, so we may look more bullish than this, right, than this is currently showing. So we'll see that a bit more clear on the 1 hour. However, I was saying yesterday it looks like we're making our high lows, high highs, which was great for structure. However, of course we took a lot of buy side liquidity, SMC divergence, and we had a bit of a bearish push from there, and we may be in store for more, right? We kind of have this trend line here, sell side liquidity below all of these lows as like a trend line down towards this area here with these unmitigated POIs as well. So after taking such major buy side liquidity, it's not too surprising we're having a bit of a bearish push here. Right, this low, we came down and slightly mitigated this imbalance here and had a bit of a bullish push and pullback to this 4 hour order block, which looks to be serving as resistance, right? It was always going to be a possible resistance unless we broke through it to make a new higher high. So we've come down for this sell side liquidity now because these will be weak lows, right? So it makes sense that if we meet this as resistance, these lows that failed to break this high are now weak lows, so price may come to at least take the sell side liquidity below these lows. Now we still have a more of an external structure from maybe this low or this low to this high, so price may still see some support around this area once it fills this and goes into this order block and takes this sell side liquidity here. So still possible future support here, but this low at least around here is a weak low. Right, so this low here is yet to be proven weak, I would say, because it created a new high. However, this low is definitely weak, so I wouldn't be surprised if we take that sell side liquidity today at least. So I hope that was clear. Just let me know in the comments if it wasn't, or if you have any questions. So just to summarize the 4 hour, weak low here potentially. Looks like we're gunning for it for sell side liquidity. We may see some sort of pullback from now taking the previous daily low, but this is quite close by, so it wouldn't surprise me if we take that too. We have possible support around this area. If price is going to continue bullish, it may continue from here. Otherwise, we have a sell side liquidity trend line leading all the way down from this point to our unmitigated 4-hour POIs here. So we may see some sort of move towards that today and into next week. So over to DXY, our inverse, we can see after that SMC divergence occurred, right, where we didn't take out that previous weekly low, so this SMC up here I'm referring to, when we made that high low, it pulled back bullish to this 4-hour POI, which at least temporarily became resistance. However, price did not go on to continue to make those lower lows, right? We seem to have found support here at this 4-hour imbalance, right, where we've mitigated that imbalance here, and on EU we've mitigated this 4-hour POI up here as resistance, as support. Price has gone bullish from there, so as we can see, which is causing this bearish breakdown here. Therefore, same as this scenario here, these could be weak highs. So I'll draw that out just so it's very clear. These could be targeted as weak highs because we found support here. This high we made here, this lower high, failed to make a lower low so far because we found resistance here. So DXY may go on to take the buy side liquidity above these highs or continue to make higher highs. Alright, so that's if we go with that bearish scenario here. Or, as you can see, we've wicked up into this 4-hour order block left behind, even though it wasn't an order block that made a lower low. If we somehow find resistance now at some point and continue going lower, that may play out the bullish scenario from maybe around this area as support. Right, so we'll see, or after we take that sell side liquidity below all these lows. Right now we seem to be retreating slightly from the sell side liquidity below these equal lows here and the previous daily low. Okay, so that's the mixture of scenarios there for the long and short bias. So I hope that's very clear. There's potential that this external leg still holds and we go on bullish, and there's potential that all this buy side liquidity and this internal now lower high with weak lows continues to go and make that bearish scenario coming through the sell side liquidity below here to these unmitigated POIs. Now I know that might have been a bit of a mouthful, so I hope that was clear. Rewatch it if you need to, or message in the comments. So in saying all of that, let's go down to the 1 hour and see what that looks like. So let's reanalyze this 1 hour price action now as a refresher, especially for those that didn't watch yesterday's video. I've identified the external 1 hour leg as this low to this high because this is where we created the high from. You could do it from down here if need be. Either way, right, we have an external leg here, and then on Wednesday into Thursday, where we had this bearish move on Wednesday, we didn't quite mitigate this 1 hour POI area here, but we took sell side liquidity. This caused us through Thursday now to eventually pull back and mitigate this 1 hour POI where the 4 hour order block is as well. And it has currently shown as resistance. Okay, so turned all these lows into weak lows, like I said, with this red line especially here. So that has pretty much played out, right? We had these equal lows here, price met this resistance, we've broken down with some momentum, taken some sell side liquidity here, possibly are going to continue for more below these lows here as well into that 1 hour POI. So that 1 hour POI where that 4 hour imbalance and order block was, this may still serve as some sort of support. So I don't know if I would short once we meet this area, right? I'd short most likely from up here, but once we meet this, it could serve as support. So I'd probably see how things play out, especially because it's down in a discount as well. So we have met some sell side liquidity targets. Right, we'll see what price does with that, whether that causes any type of significant pullback or not, or continuation. But at the moment, resistance has played out, lower high to a potential lower low. Okay, it is still internal maybe to this leg here, but the signs are there for maybe that price is going to continue bearish and come for those lows I spoke about. Sell side liquidity, sell side liquidity, sell side liquidity, sell side liquidity, all the way down until we meet this point here on the 4 hour chart. So potentially for today, as we are down in this discount, we have taken sell side liquidity, there's more to take. I think my bias would be for longs, right? Longs from down in this area. And if we pull back up into this area and find any sort of resistance and the structure goes with that on a lower time frame, we can look for shorts. So that's how I see it. Our possible bullish bias is still intact there, right? But we know from how the daily looks this sweeping of this buy side liquidity, and now these early signs of bearish structure on the 1 hour and 4 hour, and that these lows are weak here, that we could still potentially be bearish. So I do see potential for both, with buys down here and sells up towards this area more of a premium. Now looking at DXY, again we see we swept previous daily lows. There's some divergence there obviously, because previous daily highs wasn't swept by this line here before price broke down, because we had this high to this lower high, and we had this low to this lower low, which closed out as a sweep. So sell side liquidity giving that momentum, that juice that DXY needed for this current bullish candle, which played out very bearishly on EU. Right, and that is also coming from a 1 hour order block POI. So these highs here, as I mentioned with this red line, are potentially weak. We'll see if DXY has the juice for that. As we know, DXY isn't exactly moving in the greatest of trending structures, so we'll see how that looks. So it's good to be aware of both scenarios. It's good to be aware of where our weak low potential is and our support is, and where we want to buy and sell from. So I hope that was clear. Let's go down to the M15, see what potential there is for trades this morning. So let's look at this bearish move this morning, because it's in line with our strategy and what I'm showing here, right? Everything's using liquidity. You can see that here's the Asia box there, the Asia kill zone, right, into Frankfurt. We had swept above this internal high here and broke down. Now there was, I believe, like a small news announcement. It was supposed to be yellow folder news, but I think it did push price a bit lower. Okay, so buy side liquidity sweep, breakdown, right? So we broke below these lows, but obviously there was too much momentum and we met our equal low sell side liquidity targets here. So what would have been nice and gone with strategy is this had broken down with some strength here, leaving these imbalances, but pulled back a bit earlier into this zone after sweeping that buy side liquidity. Potential trade there, right? Because that's the strategy. We'd come from a high time frame POI as well, so that had been mitigated. Price would have provided the liquidity needed, broken down, shown that intention with the break of structure here, and we could have shorted that towards these equal lows. 1 hour POI, potential weak low from this lower high here. So I hope that's clear. It was similar the day before. Price has kind of just been moving without those pullbacks. We had our break of structure, took buy side liquidity, SMC, which I forgot to mention here as well actually, from I believe this high or this high here to this high, as we did around this area here. So yeah, about here to this lower low, right, and this high to this lower high. So we had that SMC divergence there as well, indicating that weakness, buy side liquidity sweep, breakdown. Okay, so lower low, sell side liquidity swept, push. The only thing is now it's introduced, I believe, more SMC divergence, right? This bullish move here has caused previous daily lows to be taken. We obviously haven't taken previous daily highs here. Potentially DXY is going to respect this area. We've taken sell side liquidity, we may take more, we may mitigate this 1 hour POI, and all of that without DXY making any kind of higher highs, right? So that may give us a signal for buys on EU and a further sell off on DXY. So potentially that's there. We'll see what price does. A lot of SMC divergences is not really an indication to just trade, right? We have to use all the other confluences around. So what I'll be looking for, price to come down into this area. Now if price does that, it's taking loads of sell side liquidity below weak low, equal lows, and then we're in this 1 hour POI, and then if price wants to, it's going to create structure, break that structure, right, break a structure there, then we could potentially have corrective pullback down to an order block with imbalance, right, from where that momentum came into the market, to potentially trade higher up until this area at least, right? We've got a strong M15 order block there, especially if we make those lower lows, that's potentially resistance. Okay, so we may sweep our internal low, that would be great as sell side liquidity around this point here. So internal sell side liquidity sweep, potentially break of structure. We're going to have an order block here with an imbalance, with potential inducement, right, which is just liquidity above our order block to set our order, stop loss just below the lows, to target where the strategy targets. I'll always target 3%. Right, so this would be the sort of areas I'd like to buy from. Right, price has left a lot of gaps and imbalances here, so it wouldn't surprise me if it pulls back to this area. So at the same time, of course, if price continues on bearish, going on bearish into this zone, we may get something like this on DXY, where DXY takes this high out, could respect this high, and then make this a weak low as well. Or it could come up, take previous daily high for more buy side liquidity, right? Also taking out that weak high, and that will give it a buy side liquidity to potentially go lower or down towards this zone here and give us that momentum to go up here. So sell side liquidity taken, POI, breaker structure, buy side liquidity taken, right? To give us some sort of pullback or sponsorship to go low. And then again, as I mentioned, once we're back up into this area, we can assess price for the potentially the same thing. Okay, I don't know if I would set my order here straight away after taking all this sell side liquidity, and if we respect, say, this 1 hour POI, because we may then go on to make higher prices. But we do have a potential zone here that may also do the same thing and go lower from there again. So we'll see. I won't get too sucked into this one here for time being. I think I'll reassess it later. But it is a nice zone that swept liquidity, as I mentioned, and broke down. So that's everything. I hope you gained value from that. I hope I was clear. Any questions, let me know in the comments. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon.